Speed painting can mean different things for different painters. In this video, I'll go over some tips which aim to save you time, no matter what style of painting you decide to go for. In this occasion, I'll be working on some Bretonnian peasants, which I'm sure people who order the new army box will appreciate. So let me show you how you can save time while painting them in whichever way you prefer. Tip number 1. The order matters. Painting the hard to reach skin tone first and then correcting with the white makes me go over each color only once. It is much easier to avoid making mistakes when painting outward details. If you find you're going over the same area more than once, then there is something to improve. I recommend you begin with a test model before moving into batch painting. Tip number 2. Don't use too many colors. Just like I painted the wrappings, ropes and fletching with the same white, I'll be using the same brown for the boots, belts and any other leather details. When looking at it from afar, different tones of the same color won't even be visible. Tip number 3 is a callback to the order in which we paint, this time having colors in mind. It would have been much easier here to correct any red spillover with blue, which is a darker, more opaque color. It will now take me 2 to 3 coats to cover the blue with red. Once again, painting a test model and taking notes will help us paint the rest with the least amount of corrections possible. Which in the end, correcting mistakes is what ends up stealing most of our time. Tip number 4 is on color selection. When painting the wood details, I could use the same brown as the leather. I instead opt to go for a shade of brown, in this case yellow, which will complement nicely with the two main colors. Yet, by being a desaturated tone, it won't steal the spotlight from the blue and red, and instead help them stand out more. For tip number 5, we move on to a man-at-arms model, and I'll be talking about the shields, which is a key component of the miniature. Just like with the Tomb King I painted last time, making use of masking tape helps us get some very nice designs quite easily. I removed some of the stickiness first against the back of my hand, and instead of going for a basic split, I cut some strips for a cross design. To avoid paint bleeding under the tape, I begin the brush stroke over the tape and then move towards the shield itself. With the models base coated, that will be enough to make them look good once next to their peers, which is one of the advantages of having the models rank up. They will be appreciated as a whole and not individually. Still, I'll be adding a bit more to them, starting by enhancing the shadows with an overall dark brown wash. It is up to you if you choose to take the paint job one more step or not, and what type and how many washes you decide to apply. When working on armies, I always go for a single overall color to define the deeper recesses. And if you are a concurrent viewer, you know how much I like to mix my own oil washes. I'll leave a link above to one of my guides if you want to find out a bit more. But basically, I like to abuse the fact that I can clean up the wash from the raised details for some easy highlights. Independent to how far you want to take your model's paint job, I encourage you to first apply the base coat of the whole army, before moving into washes and highlights. Seeing no grey plastic will give you a huge confidence boost. And I insist, even without further painting, when put together the models will look even better. Plus, you won't have to stress out for having models unpainted. You can add more detail to the paint job at your own pace. Here is how the models ended up looking after the cleanup. I'll be applying a couple highlights here and there, which will just be re-establishing the base color in its full intensity. This will be done only for the red and blue details, which are the main colors of the scheme. I've left the faces out of the video to focus on the overall paint job, but if you wish to see an in-depth guide on how to paint them, I'll link above the video in which I painted this one step by step. With that said, here are the finished models. I hope the tips in this video are of use to you, and feel free to leave any questions in the comments.